Have you spent your whole life being kind, only to realize people take advantage of you? As we grow older, people often tell us to stay gentle, patient, and forgiving. But sometimes being too soft leaves us feeling tired, used, and even hurt. This isn't about becoming mean. It's about learning how to protect your peace and stop giving all of yourself to people who don't value it. In this video, we're going to talk about 6 powerful reasons why living a little colder after 70 can bring you more peace, not less love. These are the kinds of lessons many of us wish we had learned sooner. How to care without getting drained, how to be kind without being walked over, and how to be there for others without losing yourself. So stay with me until the end, because the last reason might just change the way you look at the rest of your life. Let's begin with something that matters a lot: emotional distance. The older we get, the more we start to understand that peace is precious, and the best way to protect it is by choosing carefully what we get involved in. Being emotionally distant doesn't mean you don't care anymore. It means you're learning to choose where your heart goes. After 70, not every argument needs your attention. Not every family issue needs your time. Not every hurtful word needs a reply. You've earned the right to stop letting everyone pull you in different directions, especially people who take more than they give. Sometimes we mix up love with duty, but true love shouldn't make you lose sleep over someone else's problems. It shouldn't make you carry what was never yours to hold. When you start stepping back emotionally, what you're really doing is making a clear line. This is mine, and that isn't. That line helps protect your mind and heart. You can still love someone and not carry their pain. You can listen without jumping into fix. You can show up without being drained. Take Martin, for example. He's 81 and used to be the one everyone called when there was family drama. Missed birthdays, arguments, hurt feelings. He was always the one trying to fix things. But one day, he realized his own time was slipping away, and most of it was being spent fixing problems that weren't his. So now Martin listens, but he doesn't chase. He supports, but he doesn't get pulled in. And because of that, he feels peace, something he hadn't felt in years. Living with emotional space means understanding that not every fight is yours. You can walk away from drama, even if someone tries to pull you in. You can choose calm over chaos, distance over damage. Some might say you're colder now, but what they really mean is you stop being easy to use. You stop carrying other people's emotions and started protecting your own. And that's where real freedom begins. When you stop holding everyone else's weight, your steps get lighter, your mornings get calmer, and your nights get quieter. That kind of peace, the kind that doesn't get shaken by a phone call or a guilt trip, is worth everything. Now let's talk about something even harder: saying no, especially when we've been taught all our lives to say yes. After 70, your time and energy aren't just important, they're sacred. One of the strongest ways to show self-respect is to say no without guilt. Many of us grew up thinking we had to agree with everything, that we had to be helpful, even when it hurt. But that way of living leaves you tired, drained, and quietly angry. Living coldly means you've learned you don't have to be everything for everyone anymore. And that's not selfish. That's survival. Every time you say yes to something you don't want, you say no to something that truly matters. Your rest, your quiet, your joy. Your days are limited now, and you get to decide how to spend them. You don't owe your time to every request. You don't owe your attention to every call. And you certainly don't owe your energy to people who don't respect it. Think about Carol. She's 76 and used to say yes to everything. Rides to the doctor, hosting dinner when she was exhausted, babysitting at the last minute. Even when she had plans, she'd cancel them. But last year, something changed. She finally realized that all those yes had slowly taken away years of her own joy. So now, Carol says no. And she says it kindly, clearly, and without explaining herself. And you know what? The world didn't fall apart. The people who truly cared understood. And Carol finally found some peace. You don't need a big excuse to say no. You don't have to explain or soften your voice to make others feel better. People who love you won't need a reason. And those who don't, they've been enjoying your lack of boundaries for far too long. There's real power in a simple no. Not cold, not angry, just clear and steady. And when you say no like that, you start making room in your life for rest, joy, and health. You stop feeling guilty for taking care of yourself. You wake up with less stress. You go to bed with fewer regrets. You fill your time with things that feed your soul, not just please others. This isn't about caring less. It's about caring wisely. You care for yourself first, so you can still give without being emptied. And when you say no from a place of love, not fear, you finally begin to live the life that was waiting for you all along. After 70, another important lesson is this. You don't have to feel everyone's pain just to be a good person. Many of us were taught that being kind means being fully open, always available, always feeling deeply for others. But too much empathy, especially when given to the wrong people, can quietly hurt your mental health. That's why learning selective empathy becomes important. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start choosing who you care for, how much, and for how long. You see, not everyone deserves the full weight of your heart, and not every problem is yours to hold. When you care too much, too often, you begin to carry the emotions of others like they're your own. Their fear becomes your worry. Their sadness becomes your heaviness. And without even knowing it, your body starts to feel tired, your mind starts to feel foggy, and your spirit begins to dim. That's the hidden cost of giving too much. Let me tell you about Walter. He's 83 now, one of the kindest men in his neighborhood, always smiling, always ready to help. But for years, Walter made everyone's problems his own. A neighbor couldn't pay a bill, he'd offer money. A friend was fighting with their kids. He'd try to fix it. A family member was sad. He'd stay up all night on the phone. And slowly, without even realizing it, Walter stopped sleeping well. His blood pressure rose, and he felt like the joy in his life had disappeared. One day, his doctor said something that stuck with him. "Walter, you can care, but you don't have to collapse." That day, Walter gave himself permission to care less, but in a smarter way. Selective empathy means listening without letting the pain live inside you. It means offering support without giving away your peace. It means letting other people deal with their problems instead of always trying to solve them. Some people are always in crisis, always needing help, always pulling you in, but they're not looking for true help. They're just looking for someone to dump their emotional weight on. And after 70, you've earned the right to say, not anymore. When you start choosing who gets your empathy, your life begins to shift. You don't feel so overwhelmed. You stop feeling anxious all the time. You have more space in your heart and mind for things that truly matter. Your health, your happiness, your peace. The people who truly love and understand you will respect your boundaries. They won't try to break them. And the ones who do, they were never looking out for your best interests in the first place. There's a soft strength in this kind of coldness. It doesn't mean you're shutting people out. It means you're keeping your mind steady and your heart safe. You're giving yourself a space to be happy without always drowning in someone else's sadness. And in that space, your mental health starts to heal again. Now let's talk about something even deeper. Your time. After 70, every hour feels different. Each day matters more. And every moment can either lift you up or wear you down. That's why learning to guard your time is one of the most powerful things you can do. It's not selfish. It's smart. Living a little colder doesn't mean you don't care about people. It just means you've stopped handing out your precious hours to things or people that don't deserve them. Think about all the times you said yes to something and regretted it while it was happening. Sitting through conversations you didn't enjoy. Running errands that weren't even yours. Going to events that left you more tired than happy. We sometimes think that giving our time makes us good, but being wise with our time, that's what makes us strong. Take Doris, for example. She's 78 and used to say yes to everything. Church meetings, family dinners, community gatherings, you name it, she was there, always moving, always doing. But at the end of those long days, Doris didn't feel good. She felt drained. One quiet morning, she sat down with her calendar and asked herself, which of these things actually brings me joy? And the answer surprised her. Almost none of them. So she began clearing her schedule, step by step. These days, her calendar is light, but her heart is full. Your time should reflect what matters to you. It should bring comfort to your body, peace to your mind, and warmth to your heart. If it doesn't, it's okay to step back. You don't need permission. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone your time. The people who love you will understand. And those who don't, well, maybe they never really valued you at all. When you start guarding your time, something powerful happens. You begin to see clearly. You notice who only calls when they need something. You notice which events leave you feeling lonely instead of loved. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when the real peace begins. A quiet morning without pressure. A slow afternoon without guilt. A peaceful evening you plan just for yourself. That's the kind of day that heals your spirit. And every time you say, I'm not available, you're really saying, I value myself. And that, my friend, is something you should have been saying all along. There's a certain strength that comes with age, not just in wisdom, but in spirit. One of the clearest signs of that strength is learning how to say no and actually mean it. After 70, your personal boundaries are more than just simple preferences. They become your shield, a shield that protects your peace, your dignity, and your right to live life on your own terms. Living a little colder doesn't mean you're being rude. It means you finally understood that your space matters. Too many of us confuse kindness with availability. If you've always been dependable, the one people call first, the one who never says no, then chances are, over time, your needs have been pushed aside. You probably said yes when your heart said no. You've helped when your body begged for rest. You've smiled while someone crossed a line, just to avoid conflict. But let's be honest, peace that costs your self-respect isn't peace at all. It's quiet suffering. Let me tell you about Harold. He's 81 now, and for most of his life, everyone called him the steady one. Calm, helpful, always showing up. But over the years, Harold began to notice something. His kindness wasn't being appreciated. It was being expected. If he ever turned down a dinner invite, people were surprised. If he said no to a favor, they got upset. One day, he stopped picking up calls that only came with demands. He started saying no, even if it disappointed someone. And something amazing happened. He felt free, not angry, not cold, just free. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks. You decide who comes in and how far they're allowed to go. Saying no doesn't mean you're hard-hearted. It means you're finally protecting the life you've worked so hard to build, your energy, your values, your peace. And once you start doing it, it gets easier. People begin to understand who they can and cannot take advantage of. The ones who truly care will respect your limits. The rest will slowly drift away. And that's not a loss. It's a blessing. You also start to notice something beautiful. Your boundaries are a reflection of your self-respect. You're no longer here to entertain guilt or to serve every request or to solve every problem. You're here to enjoy the years you've earned. And that means drawing clear lines and standing by them. There's a quiet courage in this kind of coldness. Not the kind that pushes others away, but the kind that brings you back to yourself. Because after everything you've been through in life, protecting your peace isn't optional anymore. It's survival. And every time you honor your boundaries, you take back a little more of your power. Now let's talk about something even deeper, letting go of outcomes. It's one of the hardest things to learn, but one of the most freeing. After 70, try to control everything. How people act, how situations unfold, how others react to your choices. It just wears you down. Living coldly doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've gained emotional clarity. It means your peace no longer depends on things going exactly your way. When we're younger, we waste so much time worrying. We try to fix people who don't want to change. We stress over what we said or how someone took it. We go over the same mistakes again and again, hoping we could change the past. But after a while, you start to see worry doesn't help. Overthinking doesn't fix anything. And no matter how hard you try, you can't control what others do. Let me share Eleanor's story. She's 84 now. For years, she worried constantly about her adult children, their choices, their struggles, their money problems, their relationships. She'd stay up at night thinking about what they were doing, hoping they'd change. But one day, she realized her worry wasn't helping them. It was only hurting her. So she made a decision. She'd give love when asked, offer advice if welcomed, and then let go. She stopped trying to manage their lives. Since then, her mind is quieter, her body feels lighter, and her days are more peaceful. Not because everything is perfect, but because she stopped trying to control what was never hers to control. When you let go of outcomes, you take your power back. You stop chasing approval. You stop trying to fix everything. You start trusting life a little more. You learn to let conversations end, even if they're not resolved. You let people be wrong about you, and that's okay. You stop explaining yourself where it's not needed. That doesn't make you heartless. It makes you wise. It means your emotional thermostat is no longer controlled by someone else's behavior. Whether someone thanks you or not, whether they show up or not, whether they're polite or distant, you stay grounded. You stay calm. You don't spiral just because someone else is spinning. And that's what it means to live with emotional independence. After all this time, peace becomes your top priority. And peace doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from letting go. As we wrap up this journey, take a quiet moment to think about everything we've talked about. Living a little colder after 70 doesn't mean shutting people out or walking through life with a hard heart. It means finally choosing peace over people-pleasing. It means picking boundaries over burnout. And most of all, it means putting yourself, your well-being, your joy, your health at the center of your life. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about the right things. Which part of this message touched you the most? Maybe it was a reminder to say no without guilt. Maybe it was a lesson about letting go of things you can't control. Or maybe it was the simple but powerful truth that your time is yours and you don't owe it to everyone. Whatever spoke to your heart, hold on to it. These aren't just nice thoughts. They're real tools you can use, starting today. Tools that help you live more peacefully, more clearly, and more honestly. Tools that give you your strength back. Because there's a certain beauty that only comes when you stop chasing and start choosing. Choosing what aligns with your values. Choosing who to spend time with. Choosing how you want to feel every day when you wake up. It's not always easy. This way of living takes courage. It takes practice. But each time you set a boundary, each time you pause before reacting, each time you say no to something that doesn't feel right, it gets easier. And more than that, it gets deeply rewarding. Because this stage of life isn't the end. It's the beginning of something wiser, something more peaceful. You're not here to prove yourself anymore. You've lived. You've learned. You've loved. You've lost. And now, you get to decide what truly matters and what no longer does. So remember, you don't have to be everything for everyone. You don't have to explain your choices to people who don't understand. And you don't have to carry anyone's burden but your own. You've earned this time. You've earned this peace. Now it's your turn to protect it. Thank you for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Share one thing that stood out to you in the comments and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts matter, and they help others too. And if this message helped you even a little bit, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. because sometimes one simple message can change someone's whole day or even their whole way of living. Take care of yourself. We'll see you in the next video.